Hi everyone, today I'm going to share about how to be a good trainee. And the reason why I thought about sharing this is because I now have a trainee under me. As a senior, I realized it's quite easy to distinguish between a good trainee and a not so good trainee. I believe that different seniors look out for different things and prioritize different things, but I guess I can just give a rough guide as to what I look out for whenever I review my trainees' work. And also what I feel is important to show during your training period when your seniors or your bosses are trying to assess whether to retain you. The first thing I thought of was having a good attitude. I think it's very important to show that you're enthusiastic about your work and that you're eager to learn, and also to show that you're not afraid to put in hard work. And why I say these traits are important is because no senior would like a junior that shows the kind of, oh, I want to shun work attitude, or oh, it's just too much to learn and I don't want to put in the effort, or that I want to avoid certain pieces of work. I think as much as we all have our boundaries and don't want to be overworked, the first few months of training will definitely be the hardest, because that's actually the period of time where you struggle to learn the most. It's like a very steep learning curve, and you're trying to figure out the areas of law that your team is doing, the way the team functions. Basically, you're figuring out every single thing at one go. So it is inevitable that your hours might be longer and that you have to put in more hard work. But it gets easier over time, because once you're familiar with the area of law that your team deals with, then you already know, okay, whenever I have this issue, I'm going to search this legislation on this website. But at the start, a lot of time will have to be spent just figuring out all these things. Definitely have to be willing to put in the hard work and effort. And the trainee who lacks enthusiasm from the get-go just doesn't give off a good impression, because it just shows that, oh, I'm not willing to work hard, or I'm not willing to spend the effort to lay the groundwork so that I can be more efficient in future. I think diligence is also very important when it comes to having a good attitude, and this is very obvious. The moment I see an error in the piece of work that was submitted, for instance like a typo or a grammar error, I can immediately tell that the person who did the work was not sufficiently diligent, in the sense that they did not check their work to make sure that there are no such errors. One of the directors once said that, even if the clients don't understand the law or don't understand very chim English, they can easily spot a typo. So I think this is the basic, like, do not submit work with errors or emails with typos. And basically it just gives off the impression that, I don't even check my work, because it's not even about the law, or it's not even anything complicated. It's just making sure that you don't spell things wrong and you don't use bad grammar. And I know this because I've been doing the groundwork, and I know that as long as I check my work, I won't submit a piece of work with such errors to my bosses or to my seniors. But there are days when, okay, I'm rushing and I don't have time to check the work, then all these things will happen. So I would understand if the work was maybe urgent, or like that you were forced to rush the work out. But if there was no such rush and the typos were still there, then I would say that the person who submitted the work lacks diligence in that sense. Yeah, just don't be shoddy with your work. I think you have to be very patient with yourself, and to also be willing to put in the time to figure out the laws and read through the statutes, every single definition. Essentially, when producing the first cut of work, you have to do it as though your work is ready to be sent to the clients. If you don't take pride in your work and you don't do it in that manner, then the quality of work that you produce will definitely be subpar. It's like somebody has to review and add on to it. You have to be patient with yourself and to really be thorough in your research and analysis. Second thing I think to note is that you shouldn't let your seniors repeat their instructions multiple times. I think there's no strict rule as to how many times a senior should repeat himself or herself, but it depends on the severity of the matter. So if it's a very simple matter, like, okay, how to save the file document, or how to send emails to the bosses, for simple admin matters like this, the senior should only have to say the instructions once, because it is not something that is very difficult for the mind to process in that sense. It's just a matter of whether you pay attention to the instructions or not, and whether you took notes down so that you ensure that you save the document in the way your bosses need. For admin matters, if your seniors have to repeat instructions more than twice, I think that it shows that you don't pay attention to what they say, or that you don't pay attention to details. And the thing is, seniors do actually remember how many times they repeat instructions to you, because it takes a lot of effort to just type down all the instructions and things to note and all that stuff. It's not like while they're rushing their work, they're also taking time out to give you all these specific instructions. So if you don't take them, they will remember, like, oh, I spent 30 minutes typing an email of all the nitty-gritties for them to take down, and then they make the same exact mistake that I say, okay, don't do this, don't include this, or please save the file as this, and then they don't do it. So it gets very tiring for the senior if they have to repeat multiple times. And I know a lot of professors and bosses like to say, oh, there are no stupid questions in a sense. But honestly, I think there are stupid questions. It's not that they're stupid, but it's more like careless questions. Because if it's something that you can check yourself and you ask your senior for it, then that would be a very careless question, because it shows that, oh, you're just not diligent enough to go and check it out yourself. For instance, if a senior has already sent you an instruction sheet, like a 2-pager on how to do this task, right? Okay, like first you have to search this website, search that website, and then blah blah blah. And after that, you ask a question to which the answer can be found in the instruction sheet. It just shows that you're careless even in reading instructions. So in that sense, there are careless questions that I think people should avoid asking their seniors. I think good questions will be questions that as seniors we also know that you cannot find the answer even if you do your desktop search, or even if you ask whoever you need to ask. I think the third principle is to ensure that your work should make the lives of your seniors or bosses easier. So what I mean by making their lives easier is that essentially you're like a helping hand, right? You lay the groundwork, you do the first cut, you produce the first draft, so that your senior doesn't have to do all the same thing, like go through the same piece of research, go through the same piece of legislation, or redo your work. So if your senior has to redo your work for you, then it's a sign that it's not a good work. Or if they have to verify the law or go and do their own research, then it's also a sign that you have not done your work well, because these are things that they should be able to trust you on. So the first few times of reviewing, yeah, maybe I would go through the law myself and go through the research myself, just to make sure that this trainee or this junior has a similar standard of work. So if I go through the law and I realize, oh, this trainee has picked up the exact same thing that I picked up, then I would think that, okay, this piece of work produced by the trainee is reliable, and in future I will tend to trust this trainee more, because they have shown over time that their work is thorough, it's comprehensive, and it's the same work that I would produce for myself. Of course, it takes time to get there, but there are some things or some areas of law that are just mere effort. Okay, basically anything that is not experience related or that can be searched up. Like if your senior essentially uses the same resources as you and searches for the same things as you and can find the answer, but you cannot find the answer, then it's a sign that your work is not thorough, because it has nothing to do with experience, or it has nothing to do with how long they've been in the firm. Essentially, they're looking at the same resources and coming to the same analysis, right? It is very important to make sure that your work is actually making their lives easier and not making their lives harder, because if they have to redo your work, then it is actually making their lives harder, because it might be faster or easier for them to just do the work themselves in the first place. The fourth principle is a more comforting one. I know the first three might sound a bit harsh and sound a bit judgmental, like, why don't give chance? But I think they are just good pointers to have. I know that not everyone can be perfect, or not everyone can hit the standard, or there are certain circumstances that sometimes just make it difficult to be thorough or be diligent or be patient with yourself. But the fourth point that I'm going to share is very comforting. Just do your best. I think if you have done your best, your sincerity in your work and your attitude will definitely come through, and people can tell that you've put in your best effort. Even if something goes wrong. Yeah, I think effort makes a lot of difference. Attitude is one thing, but just having the mentality and the mindset that you are trying your hardest and that you're putting in the best that you can will definitely come true. And the senior can really tell whether you have that mindset or you have the, okay, never mind, I'm just going to be shoddy and sleep short with my work mindset. I hope that my sharing gave you some tips on how to be a good trainee. And do subscribe to my channel if you like to listen to more law related content. I know my videos are not very exciting and not very like visually captivating, but I think if it benefits you, you can leave it to play while you're doing other things. Just listen to it like a podcast, or listen to it before you fall asleep. Just kidding, do whatever you want, and have a good week. See you in my next video.